All right, I gotta be honest with you all. I have been digging through the pile all morning, and I know we are long overdue for a new episode of What's in That Pile, but nothing's really jumping out at me, so I thought it might be fun to time travel. That's right, back to long before I joined YouTube, long before this pile existed, back when I was just digging through loose logs on the floor, and to when I found one of the coolest pieces of wood I've ever worked with in my life. So let's rewind the footage.
What's in that pile?
All the way back to June 2021. I was driving up the canyon for a trail run when I spotted a really interesting piece of wood on the side of the road. I know you're probably shocked to hear this, but it's not uncommon for me to pull over and dive into a ditch because I thought I saw a piece of wood. So this piece looked kind of interesting, but honestly stick around because what's inside this regular old looking log it's crazy. I hauled it home, and this was actually the very first time I had ever operated a chainsaw, like ever. I mean, remember, this is a time travel episode. This was only 2 years ago, but I haven't been doing this stuff for very long. Not only is this my old lathe, but I'm still also using just this one static camera angle. So sorry in advance that the shots are going to be really uninteresting, but the wood is not uninteresting, so at least there's that. You see, this was long before anyone would have thought to call me a content creator, and I was still like over a year away from even dreaming about putting content on YouTube. I had just quit my decade-plus marketing career after getting fully burnt out during quarantine, and I was really questioning just like every major life decision that I'd made up until that point. Also, sorry, I'll get to some woodworking play-by-play and tree facts here in a minute, but I'm realizing since I'm still new to YouTube and a lot of you don't really know me yet, that I may as well use this episode to give you a little bit more of this context. So yeah, I just quit my job and I'd picked up some freelance marketing gigs and was just trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. I knew I'd liked writing and creating, and I was feeling drawn to something a bit more artistically inclined, and I'd really developed this fascination with trees and native ecosystems. So I took some of this newfound free time and decided to share this tree obsession, as well as one of my newer hobbies, which was woodworking, with friends and family, and eventually, ultimately, with the world. I definitely didn't expect anyone to really care about my silly tree facts and my rudimentary woodworking stuff, but, well, eventually I turned out to be wrong. I used this footage right here to make a TikTok one day, and that one ended up being my first one to ever get over 1 million views. It felt crazy. I barely know what I'm doing in a wood shop now, and I had no idea what I was doing then. And it was really scary to put a video of me and my really amateur hackish skills on the internet for anyone to see and comment on. I feel like so many of us are feeling a real draw to make stuff because it's a fundamental core part of being a human. We're meant to make and create. But this consumerist machine we're forced to live under is always just trying to make us want to buy things instead, you know? And then we've all got these loud imposter syndrome voices in our head just chattering away, telling us, you can't make something interesting, why even try? But this is why trees and wood are such a fun medium to work with, because they do all the hard work anyway. But really, it doesn't need to be woodworking. Painting, drawing, pottery, baking, I don't know, just like anything you can use your hands to make something, go do it. Don't try to be perfect. Just start making something. We're meant to do it. Anyway, that's the end of this long preamble. I was just thinking a lot about this as I was reviewing all this old footage and how close I came to not pursuing any of this stuff. Don't listen to those inner demons. They're wrong about so much. Okay, yeah, let's talk about this piece of wood because, I mean, come on, look at it. The tree that it came from was the Quaking Aspen, Populus tremuloides. It's a tree with one of the most expansive native ranges in North America, and it's found all over the mountains by my home. I even have a few of these trees in my own yard, and they're one that a lot of people, myself included, are real fond of. I mean, it's a tree that evokes a lot of images. A quaking aspen grove in the summertime with the dull roar of its trembling canopy kicked up by even the softest of breezes. The way that light shimmers through those millions of dancing leaves. The bright streaks of gold splashed across a distant mountainside in the fall. It's easy to see why this tree is so beloved, but of course let's not also forget our dear friend Pando. Pando! Expect more videos on this channel about Pando in the future, but if you don't know what it is, it's a giant aspen colony. Basically a single organism consisting of a giant shared root network sending up tons of aspen clones. It lives in the mountains of central Utah, and it's one of the largest and oldest living organisms on the entire planet, and also it's one of my best friends. Pando! Alright, so in the few peeks we've had at the woods so far, we can see that there's some really cool stuff going on in there. So let's talk about the two phenomena that are responsible for making it look this way. First, all those multicolored stripes. They're called spalting, which is a coloration caused by a fungal infection in the wood. Different types of fungus can cause different types of discoloration, and various species of wood can also react differently depending on the type of fungus. You can get streaks of brown, black, red, blue, gray, yellow. Some fungus will even entirely bleach the wood white, and it's always fun to carve into a gorgeous piece of spalted wood, so keep those fungal friends around. But there's even more going on in this piece of wood. As you may have seen at the very beginning of the video, there was this rippled texture on the outside of the log. Well, we're also seeing that on the inside of the wood. So what we have on our hands here is a type of figure that goes by a lot of different names. Curly wood, flame, tiger stripe, rippled, even fiddleback after its historic use for the backs of violins. Now, there is some minutiae in the precise difference between all these different types of curl, but that's a topic for another time. For now, we'll just talk broadly about wood curl and that it's typically caused by compression in the grain of the wood. Like, let's say there's a really heavy limb or the tree's growing unevenly, and that can sometimes cause the fibers of the wood to grow in this scrunched up accordion-like way. This creates a really cool optical effect where the surface of a totally flat piece of wood can have all this 3D looking grain that shimmers and catches the light at different angles. The term for this effect is a word you've probably heard on this channel before, and interestingly enough, it was while writing the narration for the original TikTok video of this vase almost 2 years ago that I first learned that word, which is of course Chatoyancy. So we have a really old aspen tree up in the Wasatch Mountains that was growing in such a way that the grain developed this curly pattern in it. The tree died and came crashing down sometime in an avalanche and developed this fungal infection that resulted in some wild and crazy colors. And that's how Mother Nature created this truly stunning piece of wood. It was a real collaborative effort. And that, alongside my curiosity about trees, is one of the things that draws me toward woodworking as a medium. You can just grab some dead hunk of trash wood and look what's inside. I mean, come on, look at this. You know you want me to say it. So much Chatoyancy. Anyway, thanks for indulging me on this kind of unusual episode of What's in That Pile. Next time we'll be back to the usual mix of woodworking and baking, foraging, cooking, all that fun stuff. But until then, for me, try making something new this week. It doesn't have to be woodworking, it doesn't have to be anything specific at all. Just put those hands to work, make something new, try creating, and if you're feeling up to it, share it with somebody. And as always, let me know in the comments if there are any pieces of wood you'd like to see me use next time we find out
What's in that pile?